Welcome to Around the Reel with your hosts, Aaron Carlson, Charles Lawson, and Samantha Hannah. Ah, shit. Here we go again. Here she is. Hi. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we sure can.
Perfect.
I don't have a nice microphone or headphones like you guys have.
You're all good.
You sound actually. You
You
sound,
sound
really
good.
You're
considering.
Okay, good.
Totally
Here's-
fine.
This MacBook shockingly still works. It's missing buttons, but
I hear you.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
fun. No, nothing wrong with that. No, you sound great. You're
Yeah,
fine.
you sound good.
As long as we can hear you and talk to you and see you,
Yeah.
then we're gold. And we can.
Great.
I think we accomplished that, so
Yeah,
we're good.
we're good.
Yeah, we are good. I was just gonna start talking to Sam before you popped in, or before I let you in, about because our show we ramble a little bit in the beginning,
Usually, yeah.
but it's fun having another person who makes documentaries.
Yes,
that would-
because I do.
Yeah, and I'm editing hers right now, and we're on the final edits, and it's a pain in
How's
the
it
ass.
Yeah. How sick of it are you?
Hey, watch it.
Well, because I cut a movie, and I was like, dude, this movie's legit. It's ready to go. Here we go. And then everybody watched it, and then they have all these little things they want to do.
You'll be
And-
fine. You'll get over
And
it.
I'm like, but it's good the way it is. Why don't we just keep moving forward and get it?
Nature documentaries are actually one of my favorites. Those are the most fun
Yeah.
to me.
They're fun. It's
are
fun.
fun.
It's fun. I like it. I didn't think I would like making docs, but Sam talked me into it, and this is her second one, and they're awesome. So
Which one is harder, in your opinion, or more challenging?
Out of the first or the second?
no, at a documentary or
just
narrative.
between scripted and narrative.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
doc.
Yeah, which one is harder, Aaron?
In the beginning, when I first cut the giant Pacific octopus that she made, that was devastatingly hard. That was hard. I had no idea what I was doing. No clue.
He was so totally out of his element.
Yeah, because I need a script. I have shot lists. I wrote something. I know what we're doing, and I'm the editor and usually the filmer when I'm on set. And so I've got it already kind of lined up in my head of what shots I want. I didn't even think we had a movie. I had no idea. We had a bunch of people talking, and then we got some B-roll. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? I have no idea what this.
He actually came to me and was like, I don't think we have a movie here. I'm not sure. I don't see it.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's there. Trust me.
Yeah. So it was harder at
It was
one
harder
point,
for
but
the documentary.
now that I understand it, it's pretty easy. It wasn't as difficult as the first time, but I think that goes with everything. You know what I mean?
It is different because you don't follow a script. I mean,
That's right.
you do, but you don't. But you mostly don't. You really kind of, a documentary almost tells itself. You're just kind of there to tell the story as it unfolds, right?
Gather
And,
all
like,
the pieces.
In a way,
Yeah.
that's a lot of it. So,
Anyway.
yeah, it's interesting.
It
Making
is.
Documentaries, is interesting.
It is.
I've always loved watching them.
Yeah. She's a freak for him.
I love them.
A freak.
What's your favorite?
My favorite documentary ever of all time?
Well, not ever. That's
Oh.
too much, and they're most of the time they're not uplifting. So they're not fun to watch, or not necessarily in the same way that scripted stuff can be really fun.
It's
You feel like
different.
a comedy tonight. You feel like a mood. You can pick a genre. You can basically pick the kind of energy or like what you want coming back to you. Doc is a totally different. You're in their world, not they're coming into your world.
That
you know
is
what I
right.
mean?
That is right. Yeah, you're absolutely.
And
That's
it's-
a great way to put it.
And
That's
it's
right.
real life, so it's always harder, you know? I can watch somebody getting their head chopped off in a horror movie, no problem. In real life, if I hear it, I'm like, Jesus, what the hell's going on? This is brutal. You know, it's different. It's so different.
It's
Totally.
different when it's real life. I don't know why that puts such a different spin on it, but
It's no good. Yeah.
But
it's hard.
there's like the realm of fantasy versus like, oh, now
The
I
real
have to
life.
grab the like the darkness of the human experience or
Uh-huh.
You know what?
existential dread of what we're facing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that's it. You said you couldn't have said it any better. That's exactly what it
That
is.
is
It's
And
just
exactly-
nasty.
sometimes you don't feel like watching that. You know what I mean? At the end of the
Sometimes,
day,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's why I think people like their comfort food shows or comfort food films and documentaries are totally different because I do feel like they're demanding just because there's somebody's real life or there's something that's real. And so
Right.
it's harder to turn off like, the part that is it like strikes that nerve in you. That's like, ooh, that's awful that person has to live through that poverty, that crushing poverty, or that
or any tragedy. Just
any tragedy.
exactly.
And normally it's about trauma,
Usually.
No, well, it sells. That's why.
I mean, and I don't even know that because a lot of people are turned off by that.
Yes. But something that's just happy, like a real life story that's just happy and has no, either conflict or, complexity doesn't make for a good story, period. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Something has to be happening for any storytelling.
Yeah, but real life is so different from the fantasy movies.
Yeah.
So, and we try to dabble in both. So, you gotta turn it off, turn it on, turn it off.
And thank you for giving the love to documentaries, the sort of like, poor cousin of like what people think of as film and cinema, certainly not what narrative or scripted excitement that they get, right?
Yeah.
So
documentaries are different, but they're special because they teach people about real life things, I think. And so I think they're important and they are special. And some might think it might be easier to go, because we are unscripted a lot of times and we just go out and see what happens. But people think that might be easy, but it's not easy.
Oh,
It's not easy. You still have to tell a story with all of that.
That's the hardest part.
Sometimes I so desperately want to be able to script something or just tell somebody, say it like this.
Yes.
You can't do that and have it be a documentary.
So it's almost harder.
Definition.
It's harder because you got to put together a story with all what you get, and you get what you get.
You get what you get, and you try not to get upset, but sometimes you're like, oh, that interview.
I feel that so much.
If
they could not deliver. They couldn't. They were too nervous, or because you're also not working with actors or trained professionals, right?
Yeah. Right. Well, I think we were very lucky on this last one that's in post right now that she made, because I'd say 90% of the people we interviewed were spot on.
Great interviews.
They were great.
But that's not normal.
And personality-wise, they were great. And they were good
they
on
could
camera.
Deliver.
Yeah, it was wild,
we were like, wow, okay.
I didn't expect it at all like that, but it's just one of those
when
things.
People are passionate about something, usually they can deliver at some point, especially when they get over their nervousness or whatever, because they've never been on camera. Once they get over that, they usually can deliver pretty well, and we've had some amazing experiences in that way. But they're not actors. They don't know what they're doing, so they're very nervous.
And it's a strange experience, and even acting is part of it, but like even, you interview certain people in whatever industry they work in, and maybe they've had media training, or they know how to just, let me incorporate the question into my answer, or they just, there are a few tips and tricks that they might already be aware of, right? So that they're, that they can kind of deliver the information well. And some, sometimes folks that don't have any of that experience, whether acting or any kind of coaching, are like, it's really brand new to them when they sit down. And
and you can always tell too.
Yes. Yeah. And then it's just so weird having that camera there, especially if you're, and like, I'm behind the camera for a reason. I don't like to sit in front of it. So
same. I will say the same.
I'm always sort of like, damn, this is kind of amazing that somebody who doesn't have any relationship to film other than this story is willing to do this.
Right.
They're not getting paid to do it. They're not getting, they might not be the star of the show, right? It's not a film, scripted or narrative film. So it's a totally different experience. I'm always very impressed by the people that come through.
Yeah, for sure. You always appreciate them very much, that they're willing to come on camera and tell their story, because that is a lot to have a camera in your face and be recorded telling your story. I mean, that's hard for people. And so, definitely props to those people.
It's amazing.
It's not easy.
I think you guys are hitting something that I don't think we think enough about. Like, that isn't a crazy thing if you think about it. They're not getting paid to do it. They're just coming in, and they want to be a part of telling this story that they know about. It's amazing to be that passionate about it, and then have a camera in front of you, and then have mics and lights and all this shit in your face.
Yeah.
And they're doing it, and it's cool.
They almost should be. They should be paid.
They should be paid. They should be rewarded somehow. But you know what the reward is? It seems like they just love being a part of it.
Tell their story.
Yeah.
It's really complex, that question of should they be, compensated? Because now people are starting to think like, or there's a lot more chatter amongst documentary folks, is like, how do we compensate but without damaging the integrity of, you're not being paid for your story, and therefore I can't ask you to deliver something, right? It's got to be kind of untouched in terms of its integrity, right?
Yes,
you cannot be manufacturing or manipulating story, and so that's why it's cleanest from that regard if people don't get paid. But sometimes people have to take off work, or and it's a burden on them, or we have we have to be like, could you come, because this is when we got when we have availability to film it, and now you on our schedule. So it's complex dance, and certainly people are talking about really intense stuff. Not so much in this $3.99 film, but I found sometimes that in the most intense documentaries that I've worked on or subjects, sometimes people don't actually want their face shown. They don't want to do this, but they think that it's so important. Mm-hmm. And so that is their connection to doing it. So you see them having this internal tension of like, I'm not comfortable with so much of this, but I feel like it's important. So I'll do this.
And that's a great point, because actors want to do it. So they go out seeking the parts because they want to be in the camera. They want that. But these other people, they are sacrificing so much. So you do feel, as a director, I definitely a few times I felt like, gosh, you traveled all this way. Like, what can I do for you? I hope that I can tell your story good enough, because that's just, all you can do.
And give them a tuna sandwich and some chips or something.
Yeah, exactly. But we always are like, we'll get you lunch. We can barely afford ourselves. So it really, truly is an act of generosity from us.
Thank God they're all mostly, really willing to tell their story and give their time. We got gone on a rabbit hole, but I want you to introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Let's do that. And welcome to Around the Reel.
Welcome to Around the Reel. Yeah.
All right.
10 minutes later.
I feel like I know you guys, and
I know.
so therefore...
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
My name is Elizabeth, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. I direct, I produce. I don't do anything technical or useful in that regard. I don't. I wish I did.
Directors are very useful.
I don't know.
Without a director, there wouldn't be anything.
I get what she's saying. We'll talk about it. I get what she's saying.
Well, it would be helpful if I was like, I could do that and edit, or do that and shoot, because then I at least would be able to participate in a different, like, more technical part.
I see where you're coming from.
I get it.
But I can't, and so I'm just going to rely on the pros there, and I'm very lucky to have worked with two amazing pros on a documentary that is about to premiere next week. It's called 399 Queen of the Tetons, and it's premiering at Big Sky Documentary Film Festival, which is an amazing place for docs and feels like the right home for this film, because it's about a famous grizzly bear, and she's known by her research number, which is 399. She lives in the Tetons, so being in Montana, which is a part of the greater Yellowstone, felt like, okay, this is the appropriate place for this film to make its debut into the world. So
definitely. Awesome. And we got a small window of opportunity to try to watch some of it, and we did watch a bit of it, and it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my gosh, like this, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but this Grizzly is amazing, which is why she's being highlighted, I guess, for this documentary, but it's great. It's absolutely great. And how did you go about getting it all settled, and did you meet the photographer, know the photographer, or how did that come about?
So I met Tom Mangelson, who's a wildlife photographer, sort of like well-known, but he's kind of like an old Nat Geo kind of wildlife photographer.
Totally, yeah. I got that.
And I met him on another film that I worked on about Jane Goodall, called Jane Goodall the Pope.
Oh gosh, okay.
And so I filmed with him, a long time ago for that project, and another photographer named Nick Nichols, who's another amazing wildlife photographer, and they're all friends with Jane because her work around, but not only chimpanzee research, but actually much more important in terms of photography and communicating to the broader public was around her activism work, right, and what chimpanzees were facing.
Yes.
The habitat loss and human encroachment and all that stuff in Tanzania and other parts of Africa. So anyways, I meet Tom working on that, and he says to my cinematographer, "I like the way you move," which might sound funny, but that really like tickled Daniel Carter, my cinematographer. He's
Means
like,
so much.
Tom Mangelson likes the way I move.
I can move. He lives it.
Yeah. You know, cinematographers, DPs, camera guys, photographers, doesn't matter what you're shooting on, they're always contorting into really bizarre positions to get whatever shot.
Yes,
you
they
want
are.
to get. So that's a real that's a real feather in your cap if you're a young cinematographer that, you know, a photographer of this kind of prestige is impressive.
Especially to catch that kind of eye.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
cool.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
Cool.
And so that was the original meeting of Tom, and then he told my partner from that film, who's the executive producer on this film, about 399. And anybody who's spoken to Tom for more than 5 minutes has heard about 399, this Grizzly, because this is his self-described obsession. He has been photographing this Grizzly since 2007, and so he's basically, and that was her sort of a first appearance by the roadside in the Tetons was in late 2006. He said it was so brief he didn't even get a photo. So once and he never thought he would see her again. So once she returns, it begins what is now a very long relationship. And partially due to him and for other reasons, she's now become the most photographed and famous living bear in the world. So it's not just him who's out there documenting her. He's one of many. He's probably the most well-known and certainly well-respected.
Definitely.
He's very well-respected in terms of his art. But, you know, there are loads of local photographers out there. There are tourists. Mm-hmm. And now there's a bear brigade established by Grand Teton National Park. And it's all volunteers, but it helps keep like everybody at a safe distance. It helps keep the bears safe and the people safe, because there are bear jams,
so
hundreds of people now to see this specific bear.
Yeah, and you could see that, and that you depict that well in the film, because you could see everyone just lined up.
Yeah, they're lined up down the streets trying to take a shot of this sucker.
And you know what? This bear is so amazing. You want to, I mean, if you're around the area, definitely, and you have any kind of a cool camera or gear, you definitely want to see.
Not me, though.
Capture a picture.
This is what I wanted to talk about a little bit, because this is a bear we're talking about.
A bear?
A bear.
Or bears.
So Sam wanted to do a documentary, her first one, about octopus. Okay, so we can go out, we can get all the stock we wanted. We had underwater guys that would go and they were looking for octopus for us. I'm not going in the water. I filmed everything else besides under the water shit. I'm not doing it. And then I think about this bear, and you guys are out there with a bear. And I know that after watching a bit of your movie, that, you know, this bear actually did attack somebody at one time. So I'm like, okay, well, if I'm out there filming a bear and I actually am close enough to film this sucker with a 50 millimeter or whatever I got, that's scary.
It's scary.
Did you have any moments when you were out there in the field that you felt threatened at all filming for this bear?
That's a good question, and it makes a lot of sense. Not with her specifically. I never felt unsafe with her. I think she's very aware of her surroundings, and I think my sense is she's incredibly aware of where humans are and her proximity to humans. You know, there is a lot that I had to learn in terms of like safety and protocol about what's appropriate in terms of wildlife. And with grizzlies, you need to carry bear spray. It's like basically pepper spray, and you shoot it low. You don't shoot it high, right?
Okay.
And to always stay at least 100 yards away when you can, though you guys have seen that footage of her by the roadside. Like, she'll cross the road in between cars.
She doesn't seem too afraid.
She don't give a shit.
She doesn't seem too afraid of humans at all.
Mm-mm.
But she's protective of her cubs, right?
Yes. And that's part of what the film is exploring, right? This habituation, when animals lose their natural fear response to humans, what does that mean? What is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And, and how do we coexist together when space is at a premium, and we're both species that require a lot of space.
Yes.
So
some more than others. I want to be far away from that.
I think what I heard a lot from people who I was interviewing both in research and on camera too, is that when you go out during elk hunting season in the Tetons, because Grand Teton National Park and the surrounding national forests are huntable for elk and other kind of like other wildlife, that you have to be really careful, because that's when there's the most human bear conflict, because hunters will kill an elk and gut it in the field and leave gut piles. And sometimes they have to leave half the elk for like a day until they can come back to like take it out. And grizzlies are on that immediately, you know, so that causes a lot of human bear conflict, because people like hunters are quietly moving through the woods, right? So are bears.
Yeah.
So there can be a lot of like that was complicated. And during that time, we did a little bit of filming during the hunt. And so, you got to wear your orange so that you
definitely
don't get
shot.
I got no problem wearing
and
orange.
carrying bear spray during that time when I couldn't see bears, but I was like, I just knew from other people, this can be a loaded situation.
Yeah.
So that was, but I never saw bears during that time, but I just wanted to be hyper aware.
Oh, definitely. You have to be almost. Man. Yeah, like you have to be. If you're going out doing that, you have to be.
No, it's scary.
And I certainly don't want to make it sound like, you know, it's like complex around her in terms of like, I never felt unsafe near her. I think she's around hundreds of humans, and she, you know, and there's mostly never any interaction, but she did maul a guy in 2007. He's in the film. This is his first filmed interview, and he was really conscientious about, do I want to do this? How will this interview be used?
Oh, wow.
You know, is this going to be a salacious like piece? Because it is kind of a wild thing to be mauled by a bear.
Yeah, it
it's
is different.
I wanted both in the field when we were, you know, filming and in the edit, to make sure that we were like really keeping that balance of like not making her look like she's some sort of Disney character, sweet mirror who would never touch a fly, right?
Yeah.
But also that she's not this ferocious killer who hunts humans, you know, that she's a wild animal. So that means that even if she's comfortable with humans, that doesn't mean we can approach.
Right.
That doesn't mean we can get too close, or that it's, you know, I think for humans, what's really interesting for our species, when we're in bear habitat, we're in their world, not their own.
Damn right.
Yes.
And I respect their world so much.
I respect it too. But that is such a hard, it's such a hard picture to paint for people, because you want to portray that in such a way, but how do you do it? It's like you want to, they need their space, we need our space, we need to be respectful of them, and vice versa, but it's hard to portray that in a nature documentary, because I too had that struggle with my octopus one, because that's in the water, you know, and everyone, you know, not everyone goes in the water, but everyone goes on land. So your job was a lot harder than mine.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I think the water is like, that's a different rules of engagement and harder. And my hat's off to you, because shooting underwater has got to be so hard. You can't talk to your team. You can't, like, you know, working with wildlife anyways, or trying to document them at all. Doesn't matter if it's, again, still photography or if it's, you know, film. That you can't, like, we don't have the same language with animals, right? So I can't be like, wait, stop there, wait.
Can you move over by that tree?
Right.
Get over by that tree just a little bit more. There
Can
you
you
go.
show up a little late today? We're running a little late, but you know,
I get it.
Back to your question about how to keep that balance. I mean, that was a question throughout the entire process.
Right, I bet it was.
Strike that balance, and that was sort of the like and this is where it gets really complex. Everybody's truth around this or opinion is their own, right? Some people, and like grizzlies are very controversial and contentious in the West, in the states that have them. You know, some people are like, she leaves when she wants to, it's totally fine. And then other people are like, you know, it's wrong to chase these grizzlies around, quote unquote, chase. You know, like there's a lot that
I bet.
Coming out.
I can only imagine.
It was just really important to try to remember to try to respect her actual wildness and not anthropomorphize her and try to be like, here's what she's thinking or why she's doing it, unless it was coming from a bear biologist or somebody with a scientific background in terms of, you know, I wanted to be careful that when we spoke about bear behavior, that, for example, why she comes so close to the road, it's widely considered that she does that to protect her young, right? Yeah. That it's not just because she's interested in humans per se. She has her own reasons, but without being like, I'm trying to, you know, like to try to make another story about her that wouldn't be scientific, right? Like as scientific.
Yeah.
Right.
But people definitely have their own relationships with her, and so that was also something I wanted to explore about
I think
the
you
emotional
painted
connection.
such a good picture of that with people's separate, relationships with the bear. Just her, just $3.99, just her. And their like obsession with her, and it made sense, and you painted a really good picture of that. I think people are very curious of wildlife, just in general. You are, but you don't know how to necessarily react with them. I remember, so I worked, Titlow Beach, I'm in Washington State, and I worked at Titlow Beach, and there was seals, harbor seals, that would come up, and they would leave their young on the shore, and they would go out and hunt for food, and they'd leave their babies there. And people would go crazy, and they would go and they would pour water on them and do all these things and just totally disturb what was going on. And we'd have to explain to them over and over again, please leave the babies alone. Like, their mom is hunting, she's gonna be back. She's just putting them there to babysit, like the rocks babysit, not you babysit, the rocks babysit. Like, she's putting them there, she's gonna come right back. She's getting food for her babies, and she'll be right back. It was so hard though, and constantly, people, when they interact with nature and they don't know, and they think they're doing the right thing, so bless their hearts, because they do. And they were pouring water on this poor baby all the time, and it's like, you can't, no, you gotta leave that baby alone, because that's really, the mom is just, the beachfront is babysitting.
It's funny.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
just,
a-
but
that's a
people
great
don't know.
Totally, and that's a great example of that anthropomorphication of like, probably they're like, what a bad mom, and it's like, she's not a bad mom. You're not part of that species. We don't know what's going
don't
on.
Understand? You're right. It's
Imagine hunting with that crazy little toddler. Like,
And then we love to interfere. Like,
yes, we
I don't know if you guys have ever heard this about sea turtles. When they have to dig out of the sand when they're hatching, and they have to make their way down to the ocean.
Yes.
People like to pick them up and put them in, which is actually not great for them. They need to, I think, they need to make that journey themselves.
Yes, they do, yeah.
Or like similar to like picking up animals when they're young and then they smell like us or something, like birds rejected or what, I'm no expert, by the way. I'm not even a natural history filmmaker. So
no, but I think you've got it down pretty good.
No, you respect it. You get the respect of nature.
Yeah. And so I wanted to do that and try to at least try to do that, right? There's this both this species, this bear, this community. I mean, it's so lit around her, because she's a celebrity. You've got people that are diehard fans, and you've got people that are like, she's a problem, right? As a roadside bear, that's a problem.
Yeah.
No one animal should be getting that much attention. It's a mess in the park. And you could say people have really strong feelings on both sides.
There's different points of view, yeah, definitely.
And when do people not? They always got something to say about something.
And so that's why she was such an amazing central subject to explore, even though she couldn't communicate directly verbally in the way we do. I was like, wow. So I don't think of it as like a natural history film. I feel like it's a film about humans and our relationship with nature.
I get it.
To be honest, that's what nature films are anymore, though. It's us trying to adapt to how do we deal with nature.
We make it way more complicated than
we do, kind of, but I mean, I think it's because a lot of us want to respect it. And so we go the extra mile to try to do that.
But we do that without any knowledge whatsoever.
It's hard. It's very hard. I mean, there's, you got your pests. People got mice in their house, and they're like, they want to set traps and kill the mice, and there's other people that are trying to just learn about the nature and why are they there, and let's not kill them,
Right.
There's always a different...
There's a duality all the time.
Everyone has a different idea of what they feel or what they think. I raised a possum not too long ago, and I raised her, she was a baby when I got her, and I raised her till death. And the reason why I kept her was because she was non-releasable. She was definitely special needs. She was blind, and she had some serious problems. But it was an experience that really, really connected me with the nature of things, and it really put in perspective how much we need to respect nature and let them do their own thing and be their own thing. I mean, one thing I couldn't give Possum was that she needed was her experiences that she would have had outside, in the nature and everything. And I couldn't give her that. I could only do the best I could. And literally she would have died anyway. So I feel like I did save her life and give her the best life I could possible, but it was sad to me that I couldn't give her the life she needed.
But you know what? Other possums outside looked at that possum like, that son of a bitch
That's a lucky
gets
possum.
cheese and sausage
And kielbasa.
and all kinds of good stuff and grapes. Look at that motherfucker eating grapes. I mean, he was. I don't know. You did the best you could.
That's one side of it, and I did do the best I could. But it's hard to say, and it really is. And as a nature lover, which obviously you are, and I am, you try to do your best, and especially when you're putting a movie out there for people to watch, you really want to make sure that they're thinking of things a little differently to try to protect that species or that wildlife, because we as humans have taken over everything basically, and it's so hard now to we want to advocate for these animals that are just, they don't have a say. They don't.
Well, what's
we're
cool,
just taking over what we need to and what we want to, and they're just left there to adapt to it, and that's not necessarily always fair. And that's why I did my octopus documentary, because I wanted to portray that, and like all this pollution and all these things that we're doing, it's not good for them, and it's not fair. And they, there is an actual point where they get endangered or even extinct, and that's not fair to these animals who were here before us. So respecting nature is so important.
We forget also that we're a part, like the same things that are going to hurt these other species that we share the world with, whether it's the ocean or land animals such as ourselves, that the things that are coming for them are coming for us too. We just don't think about it like that, because we think of ourselves as separate of all of this stuff, but we're animals too. We're just, we have phones now, and we speak, we have language, we have all these things, but we, the same things that are harming, all this pollution, climate change, lack of, like ecosystem deterioration, that's coming for all of us. The pollution that's bad for the animals is bad for us to drink too, right?
Yes.
Like, so it's intense, and that's why I think also, like, climate change docs are like, they're hard to watch.
They are. My octopus one is a climate change one too,
but
as well.
It's one of the
it
only
is hard,
things, when you're talking about sorry, I'm opening a can of seltzer. What is impacting the natural world and what their big fight is now, what they're trying to adapt to and survive through, it's climate change, how it's impacting their environment. So
Yep.
And it's gonna get the sea first before it gets the land, but it eventually,
it always
we'll see it
up.
everywhere. We'll see it everywhere.
Right. And one of the contributors in the film, or subjects, Dr. Chris Servine, he's a bear biologist, and he ran the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Grizzly Recovery Program. So, like, during the time that he ran it from, I believe, 81 or 83 to 2016. So he was the head honcho. Every grizzly that was euthanized, he had to approve it, right? Like any to reinstate grizzlies, he had to approve it. He ran the whole thing. He was like the president of grizzlies.
Wow.
I don't know if he would call himself that, but and he said, another thing that's going to come for this area, that we're like, for the greater Yellowstone area, is more people. Like, as the climate gets hotter in Arizona and Southern California, and and places have less water, you're going to see migration of humans up north to cooler places where this wildlife lives. How are we going to do that? Because right now, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, pretty sparsely populated. They're not California, right? They're not New York.
But other places are getting so populated that it's coming. It's coming.
And I'm not saying it's in 2 years' time, right?
No.
But it is something to consider. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, sorry, it's getting dark. What fun questions do you
I know, really. Like, no.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say earlier. I was just going to say, you guys are a lot alike when it comes to, like, balancing these stories out, the way you look at nature, and what story you want to tell about whatever it is. I mean, I know, Elizabeth, you've done other things, but, is this your first movie that you've actually directed? I was curious.
This is the first, like, indie feature that I've directed.
Okay. So here she goes. First indie feature. She's jumping in. It's about an animal. We'll ask you here in a second. How did you hear about this story? What got you involved? Because I know what Sam does, excuse me, and how she comes up with the ideas of what docs she wants to follow. She's got tons of ideas. But sometimes they just fall in your lap. So I was curious, how did that start for you?
This one started through that relationship with Tom Mangelson, the photographer, because I met him through another film. And that was sort of the genesis. And he got my executive producer, he was telling her about 399, and he was like, this is what she's facing. This is what she's up against. She's got these quads. It's unheard of. No female grizzly has quads. Nobody's ever done it, taken them all the way to to rear them because a grizzly mom keeps her cubs for 2.5 years, and she nurses that whole time.
That's crazy. Yeah,
so and the mortality rate for grizzlies in the first year, the little cubs, they're called koi, cub of the year. They're so tiny when they're born. They're like puppy dog sized. They're 8 or 10 pounds. They're blind, and they don't have eyesight yet in the den. Then they come out. They're still really teeny tiny, and they're really vulnerable. Like wolves, other predators. They just get lost. Like they literally can't make it through the high grass yet.
Which is why mamas are so crazy.
Yes.
And we'll whoop your
I'm
ass.
digressing, but Tom really got into my executive producer's ear, and she called me and she was like, I think that there's a story here. What do you think? And I was like, put me in, coach. And so then we started from there, but it evolved wildly, right? Like,
yeah, it does.
I thought it would just be, at first I was like, maybe it'll just be about following your story of making it to Den in 2021. No, it was so much bigger than that. And then it was like, do we do her whole life story? Because there's so much incredible archive. So it really evolved, but that was the first meeting. But that was the first time I heard of her, and that was how the connection was made. But once I found out, and just Googling her and seeing all the articles about her in the local area, she lives in the Jackson Hole area. That's where Grand Teton National Park is, maybe an hour north of Jackson, 45 minutes north of the airport. Anyways, so I was like seeing, and she's got a Facebook page and an Instagram page with something like 15,000 followers. I was like, what? So I was like, she was
more followers than we got. Son of a bitch.
And more than I, she was this amazing combination of both like a celebrity, but not one that everybody knows. But it's even been wild to me that I'll be in the middle of nowhere, New York, somewhere hiking, and go to a bar after like a day of just hiking, and meet some folks at the bar, and they're like, oh, I know that person. So it's amazing that she's both well known enough to have celebrity and what that means. And I was like, how does the animal become a celebrity?
I know, right?
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So it felt like she was ripe for a film, or like what would be an amazing subject, because there would be this amazing beautiful archival.
Mm-hmm.
She's a symbolic, like grizzlies are like one of the most iconic American species, right?
For good
they're
reason.
They're on the California state flag. They're like, even though none live in California anymore, they're extinct there. But they symbolize, strength and individuality and rugged, American fierce independence and all of that jazz. I was like, oh, this is ripe, but I didn't know exactly what it would all mean, but it never ceased to be interesting, and she was never not interesting. The first time I met her was when she was walking through downtown Jackson. So she brought her 4 Sabadell cubs through downtown Jackson, which is so dangerous. I mean, if somebody was out walking there, and it was pitch black dark, if somebody was out walking their dog and the dog started aggressing the bears, it could be over for everybody. Somebody drunkenly stumbled out of a bar, which has happened a time or two in Jackson, and then walked, and grizzlies don't normally walk, it's very rare. Like that was a very unique.
That's special. That's special.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were really spooked by it, even the people who love bears, because it was not good for them. And it sort of, to me, it's like a real, and it's in the film, this moment. But it's like, wow, is it escalating? Is it getting out of control? And so that was all the stuff that was percolating in my mind, as we're making the film, and then trying to figure out how to use everything. And it's also like, well, and who's responsible for what, right? How responsible is the grizzly? How responsible are we? What's our responsibility back to her at this point, as she's now very habituated and comfortable around humans? And what does it mean?
Well known. So people are going to come from places to see her and watch her. And that's, that's another thing. And as a nature documentarian, which I am, and you are, it's hard to paint. You want to paint the best picture. You want to paint the best picture for everyone. not just people, but the animals too. And like try to help kind of educate people on how to coexist. And that's so hard. That's so hard because I don't even think we really know at this point how to coexist properly.
We're struggling, and that's what I wanted to explore because we
and that's why you guys
truly don't know what to do. We're struggling. We're struggling, you know, politically. It's like, should we delist grizzlies? Should they come off the endangered species list or not?
Yeah.
In the 3 states that have grizzlies, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, if they are delisted, meaning they lose their federal protection, then the states get to decide how they get managed, and that can mean a grizzly hunt. It would be to very specific numbers, and some people think that it might be a good way to, to manage grizzlies and their populations. Other people are aghast at the idea of trophy hunting.
We're dealing with this in our new documentary because
Yeah,
we're dealing with the wolves. And
Yes.
the wolves are another one, that are, have been endangered, and, it's a whole collaborating with people who do have a ranch, running a
dude ranch.
dude ranch, and trying to collaborate with them, and just the whole dilemma of how do you coexist and be okay. Everyone is okay. It's hard. It's not easy.
Native Americans got to figure it out, though.
They do got to figure it out.
They know what's
Well,
up.
and when I was doing the research for this film, and because wolves also live in the same, habitat and beyond, like they've been incredibly resilient in their comeback, right? So wolves are a different. We only have grizzlies in the lower 48 in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming, but wolves are in Colorado now. I believe that they're in Washington State.
Yes,
you guys know way more about wolves, but everybody would tell me, anybody that I spoke to was like, the wolves have it way worse than the grizzlies. They were like, that was the kind of like off the cuff thing that everybody said.
It's interesting. True. You never, I wonder.
And it's these, apex predators, or these, these carnivores have a tough time sometimes. Because they get into ranches too, so they get into people's livestock, right? Yep. And therefore livelihood. And
when it's wide open, it's a free for all. It's a smorgasbord for them.
So
it's like Royal Forks or King's Table for them. It's all you can eat. Let's go.
And they're they're doing what they're supposed to do, which is eating for a living, right?
Yes.
But they didn't know that. But we as humans said, no, that species is not okay for you to eat.
Yeah.
Right. You can eat a wild animal, but you can't eat a cow or a sheep. And I understand why we say that, but it's interesting the ways that we, our rules, and then we apply. We expect wildlife to comply.
Like a wolf's gonna go, oh yeah, I get it. Okay,
I'm gonna leave your ranch alone because
they're not gonna.
They're not, and that's what's the hard dilemma of trying to collaborate people or trying to teach people. And I found that interesting with the octopus documentary that I did, because people, they don't know. People have no experience with the sea or the water. They don't know what's in there. They have no idea how to interact with it. So when they find it, they don't know what to do. And so I always found that interesting whenever I was working at the beach down at Tillow, and people would come in and ask about the babies that were left there. They'd be trying to help them. Oh, I need to help we need to call someone, and they would be so frantic. And it's like, your heart is the best, but but wildlife really needs to be more left alone than anything.
Elizabeth, what was funny earlier in the conversation, you said you're a director, and you don't know all the technical stuff. You spit a lot of stuff so far as to why a director is important. Like from the beginning, when you said you had to find balance in this, and you didn't know which way the story was going to work, and what pieces you had to find that you could put together, and how this would all expand and grow. I mean, that's what a director does. I mean, and you did that.
I guess I have a job after all.
Yes, and that's super valuable. It's valuable. Yeah. And you don't have to go out and film it. You don't have to edit it. You don't have to do those things to be a director. You just have to have the capability to be able to put a story together in a way with whatever footage or whatever concepts you get, right?
Well, and I think so. And I also think that I do a lot of TV work, which is what has largely paid my bills over the years, right? And feature is an amazingly challenging and rewarding experience, right? And it was so different because when you go to work on a TV show, that it's like, okay, whatever streamer, whatever network wants this piece about this here, and you have so many parameters. It's going to be X minutes long. If it's for regular TV, it's got here's the commercial break, so here's how long your acts are. You have all this. You have like a really nice little format here that like you can be creative within, but here's the rails, right?
Right.
And in a feature, it's so different.
It's whatever
so
you want to do.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it is whatever you want to do, but also it has to be good if you want it to get anywhere.
Right.
And I mean, I still don't know what will happen with this film. I'm really excited we're premiering The Big Sky, but it doesn't have distribution. It's not a great time in the industry for doc or scripted or anything. It's a challenging time. So it's like, but there are so many important stories that need to come out.
Well, I'm going to give you some hope on that. So just remember I said that, then we can go back to it. But keep taking.
But films take it's like this balance of I have to be making sure that both like my research and my thought process is big and broad and well like and solid in terms of research. And then at the same time, I have to have some of my own vision to communicate to my team, to the executives, to the people that I'm filming with, who are giving, as we said earlier about, people sitting for interviews, people who are like, I don't necessarily want to do this, right? Like, and there's characters in the film who, I'm not sure if you've met Sandy and Greg yet, the local photographers who explain who's by the roadside. But
yeah, I saw their.
Yeah.
You'll keep watching and you'll understand when it turns deeply personal for them, why there are certain complex things that aren't easy to talk about on camera, that are like, pushing through something else. So they want to know that the story's in good hands. They really care about this bear.
Yes.
You want to make sure that you're being thoughtful of everybody's contribution. And by that, I mean, I had a lot of different contributors with a wide, depth of knowledge and interest and different points of view, right? And because I wanted the film to speak to everybody and not tell people what to think, I had to be respectful of all those different points of view, both on and off camera and on and off screen, right? Yes. So that's and that takes a little bit of that takes a commitment to the vision in a different way.
Yes,
if that
it
makes
does.
sense.
Yes, it really does.
And it means often that you can't take the easy way out, and damn, sometimes I wish that I had an easy way out.
I feel you so much more than you know.
Yeah, we understand this language.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, totally get it.
I hope that made sense.
It
made total sense to me. I'm not sure about everyone else.
Well, they'll get it. If they listen to it, they get it. And if they didn't, rewind it and listen to it. Especially if you're a filmmaker.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially a documentary.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's tricky.
It's tricky.
There's a lot of underneath stuff that is not really on the resume when you first start thinking about what's going to happen. Totally. Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, their feelings. I got to think about these people's feelings. Like when you make a narrative movie, I don't give a shit about it. Filmmaking, I gotta go shoot some guys. Let's go karate chop somebody. Let's have some fun.
Totally, and what is important to me is we're not, I'm not necessarily in any piece I'm doing. You want to get as close to the truth as you can, or at least an honest portrayal of whatever is happening.
Yes.
Exactly.
And that doesn't always make contributors happy, right? What I always think is important is fairness. That was it fair? Did I manufacture something?
Right.
And in documentaries, you have to manufacture entertainment, right? But that shouldn't come at the expense of fairness to your contributors.
I don't think that should ever be first.
Exactly.
That should never be first. Entertainment.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not telling a story in a manner that is engaging.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you do have to be engaging. Well, yeah. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, totally know what you're saying. Yeah, to tell it in a way that will strike people's interests, but also you're also trying to advocate. There's so many jobs that a documentarian has in making a movie. And one of them is to advocate for these animals that cannot speak. And another one is to advocate for these people that are trying to coexist with these animals. And so it's such, even just those two alone, it's hard.
And but you're also trying to think about the viewer in the sense of they need to keep watching.
Keep watching.
I don't want them to be turned off either by, what I always call we got to feed we got to feed the audience the spinach, right? Like the historical part, you have to understand that they came back from the brink, but it's not a historical documentary. It's a, present day verite. I mean, there's a lot of archive of the bear in it, like, but it's beautiful stuff. It doesn't feel like you're not in the moment with her. So you're thinking about, being, fairness to contributors and to the story and all the subjects, and, an honesty about it. And then you're like, but also it has to be engaging, and viewers have to want to watch it, right? Like, no matter how it's going to come out, because you don't, like, even now, I don't know what will happen to it, whether it'll ever be on streaming. So therefore, people need to watch it all the way through. Or in terms of festivals, you're trying to sell tickets and get butts and seats, So it's got to have something. I mean, it's easier in a theater because very rarely do people leave, right? I'm sure.
Once they're there, they're there. I get it.
Once they're there, you've got them there. But at home, you're competing against phones and,
dishes, laundry, all that.
Dishes,
shit.
laundry, and all sorts of work.
It's a delicate balance, isn't it? And to try to put it out there in the world.
The entertainment thing she brought up is what I struggled with. Like when I said to Sam, do we even have a movie? It was that piece is what I had a problem with. Yeah, how do I make this like epic? How do I make this cinematic? How do I make this feel bigger than that story actually has ever been told? How do you do that? And that's what I struggled with. And then once you find the way to do it, it makes it come to life more, and you can embrace it. As an editor, that's what I did in her first one. Once I realized it took me fucking forever to get there. But once I did, I got it. And now on the second one, I knew exactly what I needed to do. And when you watch it, it feels big. It feels epic. It feels amazing. I feel like I'm watching Yellowstone. Where's Kevin Costner? That's what I'm thinking when I get ready to watch your new doc, Sam. And you know what? Watching yours, it pulls you right in. I mean, some of the footage you got, it brings you right there, if that makes sense. And that's what I liked about it a lot. When we started watching it, I was like, Jesus, this is pretty cool. It's engulfing. I feel like I'm right there with these. I don't want to be there with the bear. I got to get out of there. I mean, that's how.
But Tom Mangelson, is that right?
Mangelson, yeah.
Okay. He. That's why we rely on him to be right there with the bear, and then we watch what he gets.
Just over his shoulder, like watching.
He's an incredible photographer, and I think you highlighted him a lot in this movie, and I definitely think that was super creative and a good way to go, because he's definitely that guy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He has that thing.
Absolutely amazing.
There's and if and I don't consider myself a natural history filmmaker of like old school natural history documentaries that only focus on animal behavior and there's no humans other than the narrator. Think about like Attenborough, right? That's
yep.
But in this case, in terms of 399 as this bear, you can't tell her story without telling it about the people, because she's a bear that came to humans. She came to the roadside, so it was like that was a great asset to be able to use humans to and talking about their relationships with her, because really she became like a prism into how people see themselves and their worldviews, and she's sort of like everybody's projecting a lot, their feelings about her say a lot, right? In beautiful and interesting ways, and to the point of thank you for those comments or those, that saying how beautiful the footage is and how engulfing you feel like you're there in the Tetons. I mean, you don't get luckier than filming in some of the most beautiful places in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Awesome. Yeah.
And so I was like, well, this is going to be, we know it'll be beautiful. And I was like, I want people to feel like they're here. Because some of what the film is also doing on the subtle level is like exploring our relationship with nature.
Yes.
And I think we all need it, whether we're scared of it or we love it or the fusion of both. It's like it's incredibly important and profound what happens for humans when we have these experiences in nature and we really get connected.
Yes.
And so I was like, I want people to feel like they can have it, even if they can't travel there,
Yeah.
Although there's some fear too that like, okay, putting it on screen and making it look so beautiful might only draw more people.
Right.
And
that's
not
fear, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of people out in the and it's one of those complex things. It's a great thing that people want to go to the national parks.
Yes.
And they're like America's treasure. And if they hadn't been made national parks, they'd be gated communities for the uber wealthy, right?
You're
so
right.
Like, they are so profoundly special. But at the same time, it's still wildlife, and it's not just there for our, like our consent. Like they can't handle millions of people per day.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a profound responsibility that we carry as a
I feel like I'm talking
as a nature documentarian. We carry a profound responsibility to try to balance people with nature. And it's crazy, and we want to do the best for everyone, right? We want to please everyone, which is completely impossible. But we try, we do our best. But nature is the key. And that's what we're trying to just teach anyone who wants to know about the nature and how to react with nature. And that's not always an easy thing to do.
No, well, I think because we're humans and we there's a lot of, like animals experience the world in a totally different way, right?
Right.
So we just assume that ours is like maybe the main way, but
we're selfish that way.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
It's really interesting once you start peeling back the layers. There's a book called Bitch about females in the wild, like all different species. And it's so amazing. It's so amazing what these females do. And I think 399 is one of them. Like female grizzlies do everything on their own. The males are actually a part of the problem. They kill the babies to send the moms into heat. So you're trying to keep your babies away from their uncles, their fathers, whoever, another part of their species is a part of the problem. Mom's doing it by herself. She's nursing, she's hunting, she's foraging, she's keeping them safe. Like she's helping them cross the water, streams, rivers.
And she's got four. She's got
everything.
four.
In this case, 399 4. And so it's just like, wow, immense skill. She had immense skill, right?
Yes.
And so do so many other species are doing amazing things. Females, especially when they're doing it alone. I'm like, damn.
Yes.
And it's instinctive. That's what's so crazy.
It's instinctive, yes.
It's wild.
But in 399's neighborhood in the Tetons, there's some other female roadside grizzlies and female moms that are around, and they're not as good at keeping their cubs. Their cubs are more likely to either get just picked off by predators or just
Well, hence is why she is so, people are so enamored by her.
Yeah. Which is why she's a queen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is why your movie is amazing.
It's dope.
So plug us, before we get to the end, plug us on your premiere.
Okay. Oh, thank you. It's premiering at Big Sky Film Festival, which is in Missoula, Montana. And that runs from February 16th, I believe, to the 24th or 25th. Over 150 documentaries from all over the world. It's not just Western films, though they do highlight films.
Yours is highlighted. I must say, I'm sorry. I know you won't say it because you're humble like that, but I will say that this film is being highlighted.
Oh, that's badass. Good for you.
We are so pumped to be opening night of the festival, which is huge. You can't I don't
it's
even
amazing.
think it's
Yes.
When they emailed, would you be open to that? I was like, are you kidding me? I think my jaw hit the floor.
Can I think about that for a little bit?
So it premieres if you're in town or around Friday, February 16th at 7 p.m. at the Wilma Theater. But if you can't join, they're amazing. Big Sky has virtual screenings for so many of their films.
Yes.
And you can stream virtually from February 19th to 24th. You get a 24-hour window for a $10 rental. So, you're supporting also.
Totally worth it. Totally worth it.
It's so worth it. And film festivals are incredible in the sense that a film festival like this really supports independent filmmakers.
Absolutely.
And as you guys know, every film is a miracle.
Yes.
Every film is a miracle.
Yes.
The fact that they get made. So this is 150 miracles coming to be in one place. And I hear great things about this festival. I haven't been. I hear it's really chill. It's really it's not snooty or hobnobby, but it's just all about celebrating these movies and the people that make them. And so that is wonderful. But as of right now, because we don't have distribution, the film festival circuit will be the best way to watch it. So I encourage people to stream it online.
Yes.
And
Get it.
And
Watch
yes.
it. Please watch it. Please watch it.
And
It's incredible.
follow us
I
at-
got to see some of it. I didn't get to see the whole thing, but I got to see a little bit of it, and it is really
We'll
incredible.
turn it back on after the show.
Really
Yeah,
finish
turn it
up.
back on.
Really
And
incredible.
if you follow us at 399 Film on either Facebook or Instagram, we'll update as we get into more festivals, fingers crossed, and then there's more opportunities to watch.
Yes.
But you guys do amazing work highlighting, both people and the craft and filmmaking and the parts that are fun and the parts that are hard. And the
It's
parts that are
important. We're all in
Yeah,
it
we get
together,
it, we
right?
get it.
We're a
It's-
family.
It's real
So
stuff.
thank you for doing that and for giving, people like me this opportunity
Absolutely.
to talk about,
Thank you so much for coming.
a bear.
Absolutely no, and you and the
Awesome.
movie you made. And here, real quick before we go, the distribution thing. There's,
Oh, yeah.
There's space for docs. Docs make Sam's movie made us the most money last year. Her documentary. Okay, so don't count that out. I know
We
other
can talk to you
other
after.
we know other filmmakers that make a
We'll talk to
living
you.
making documentaries. Not even on the level that you made them. Very low budget, pumping them
Well,
out.
you-
And
you-
if you do self distribution, even if you can get a few distributor, you're gonna have a way to share this story. So
I
don't
hope so.
and benefit from it, as a
Yeah.
filmmaker, so you can leverage it to make another one.
Yes.
Just trust me on
the
that.
Point is,
It's good. It's good.
all,
You're good.
we're all in this together. So we're a family. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
And we're gonna work to make
There's
this
ways.
amazing.
There's ways to
make
do it.
everything amazing.
People are
that
gonna
we
see.
make.
People will see your fucking movie. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. So
that's
there
what
we
we're
go.
saying. Like,
Yeah.
let's get it out there. Let's
Yeah.
get it out
We'll get
there.
it out there.
Yes.
From your lips to whoever's ears in the
Right.
universe.
Correct.
You made a good.
There-
point.
Whoever's
there's some-
listening.
So many amazing films out there, both narrative, doc, all of it. Like, we need good stories.
Yes.
They help us,
They
They
did.
do.
They're like, it's like one of the most crucial parts of being a human is how we, telling stories. It's
Telling
like one of the
stories.
best parts of being a human.
Yes.
So,
One
thank
of my
you for-
favorites.
You said it very well.
Elizabeth,
Thank
you're
you
awesome.
for the work you guys do.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
And
Thank
you too.
for
Yeah.
the work you do.
Absolute
All
pleasure
right,
meeting you.
Finish the film and let me know if you need another link. I can't provide that to anybody else, but
No,
You got
no,
it. You got it. We will do that for sure.
off record. We'll talk.
Yeah. All right. Very nice
Thank
meeting
you,
you.
guys.
Thank you so
Have a good
much.
evening.
You
All right,
too.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
For those of you that want to be a guest on Around the Reel, please email Sam at aroundthereal253@gmail.com.
That's aroundthereal253@gmail.com.
Not Messenger. Do not message Aaron on Messenger because then he has to send you a message that says email Sam at aroundthereal253@gmail.com.
That's aroundthereal253@gmail.com.
How come they can't just message me again?
Because nobody wants to fucking talk to you.
Can anybody reach out? That's an artist, filmmaker, actor.
If you're an artist of any kind, we want to hear from you.
But we are going to vet the crap out of you.
We don't care if you make millions of dollars in Hollywood or if you're just beginning your career in the art industry. We don't care. So everybody that wants to be on Around the Reel, yes, we want you.
That's aroundthereal253@gmail.com.